How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Crushing Cans Podcast Pick'em Show. Tonight, we're going to make our picks for UFC Fight Night Apex Brunson vs Shahbazyan. All right, Cullen, let's jump right into it.
Let's jump right in.
Hey, before we do, though, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, man. We're doing this for you guys.
Yeah.
We're suffering in a sauna right now, recording this shit.
If you, we're kind of sweaty right now, but we record in my garage, and it's like 100 and something degrees outside, so we're sweating balls.
We are sweating balls, baby.
Like the Black Beast, my balls is hot. All
right.
right, let's jump right into it. So the first fight of the night is Chris Gutierrez versus Cody Durden at 135 pounds. Chris El Guapo Gutierrez, he's 15-3-1. He's 29 years old. He's 5 feet 9 inches tall, and he's 3-1 in the UFC. He's on a 3-fight win streak. Most recently, he got a TKO win over Vince Morales.
Leg kicks.
Yeah, by leg kicks, and that was also at 145 pounds. He's facing Cody Durden. Cody Durden is an American. He's 11-2. He's 29 years old, 5 feet 9 inches tall, same height and age, I believe. He's making his UFC debut. He's on a 7-fight win streak.
Yeah.
What do you think about these guys?
It's going to be a fun fight, I think. Cody, he grew up wrestling.
Yes.
And from what I've found, he kind of gave up wrestling to become a pro MMA fighter.
Yeah.
He could have gone the collegiate route, but he chose to go to pro fighting. So, I mean, you got to give him a little bit of props for chasing his dreams on that one.
Yeah.
He's going to be making his UFC debut. And he trains under the Lima brothers, so he's got some good tutelage over there.
Yeah. Yeah, so a little bit more about him. He is the former Valor FC. We're talking Cody right now. He's the former Valor FC 135-pound champion. Like you said, he's competed in wrestling while growing up. He's currently on a 7-fight win streak. He's got 5 knockouts. He's got 5 submissions, and he's got 1 decision to his record. So he's a very well-rounded fighter. He can finish it on the feet. He can finish it on the ground. Obviously, we talked about the fact that he's got his wrestling, but he also has pro boxing experience.
Yep.
You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I didn't really see much of his boxing, but what I saw some pro kickboxing videos of his that he had out there.
Yeah, want to know in pro Muay Thai.
So he's been doing some things outside of just MMA.
Yeah.
Keeping his striking clean,
Yep.
and for a wrestler, that's pretty smart.
Undefeated in striking sports. He's undefeated as a professional boxer. He's 4-0 as well as a professional boxer. So he's got good hands and he's got a good ground game. And he's going up against Chris Gutierrez though. And Chris Gutierrez, he's another seasoned guy as well. Like we said, he's 3-1 in the UFC. He's got 7 knockouts right now. He has 7 decisions and he has 1 submission.
Yeah.
So
for Durden, this is a late notice fight too. Real quick, he just recently fought on July 18th.
Mm-hmm.
So he's it's not Chimaev quick.
No.
But he's still making a quick turnaround here.
Yeah, he's making a quick turnaround. He's a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is Chris Gutierrez.
Chris Gutierrez, yeah.
He's a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's the SCS former 135-pound champion, and the same thing with the WFC. He's their former champion as well. Mm-hmm. He's very experienced. He's got 2 fights in which he's had the fight stopped because he's thrown wicked leg kicks.
Yeah, that's the one. That's what I noted most in my notes was his leg kicks.
Yeah, so he's got some wicked leg kicks, and I ultimately think that for me is going to be the difference there.
Agreed.
I think going to the ground, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I think Cody Durden might try to take him to the ground, but he's also very confident on the feet, basically, with the success that he's had in the multiple different combat sports. So I think what we're going to see is a pretty big stand-up fight. I think that the leg kicks are going to slow Durden down. I think you also might run into the fact that Durden's making his UFC debut, and despite the fact that there's nobody there, you're still going to run into those octagon jitters, I think.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, and, we touched on Gutierrez's leg kicks.
Yeah.
And I don't think his wrestling gets credited enough. He has pretty good wrestling for MMA.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch some of his fights, he has the ability to keep the fight standing. He's been pressured before. People they get him in the clinch, they'll push him against the cage where maybe they're a little bit stronger, but he defends the takedown really well, and if he gets down, he still gets back up.
Yeah.
So
he's typically pretty fast at working to get back up too.
Yeah, he's quick.
He doesn't hang out down there very often.
And it's just the way he throws his kicks too. Like if you watch him, he kind of like twitches his hips a lot too, and he'll fake it like a little feint.
Kind of setting it up a little bit, trying to see how you're going to react, gauging it, and then.
Yeah, and like I said, those leg kicks.
Wicked.
I think you said you think that's going to be the deciding factor. I think that's going to be the deciding factor, and that was enough for me to pick Gutierrez by decision.
Woo! So that's a perfect one for us right out the gate.
You got Gutierrez by decision too?
Chris Gutierrez by decision. I think the leg kicks are going to slow it down. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just like we said. Leg kicks they're super important. Chris Gutierrez is going to have to find some sort of a way to slow down Cody because Cody's a great striker, great on the ground. How do you do that? You take their legs out from underneath of him.
And he loves to go at his opponent's legs.
And he's good at it. So that's it. So first one down. We both have Chris Gutierrez by decision. Now we're going to move on to the next fight. This one's Jamal Pretty Boy Emmers versus the lucky Timur Valiev at 145 pounds. Jamal Emmers, he's the American. He's 17-5. He's 31 years old. He's 5 feet 10 inches tall, and he's 0-2 inside of the UFC, including a knockout loss on Dana White's Contender Series to Julian Erosa. Mm-hmm. In his last fight, he lost a split decision to Giga Chikadze. But now he's fighting Timur Valiev, who's the Russian. He's 16-2. He's 30 years old. He's 5 feet 6 inches tall. He's making his UFC debut. He fights at 135 and 145 pounds. So tell me what you think about these guys.
So it's another interesting matchup by the UFC matchmakers.
Yeah.
Emmers, he's you already touched on the fact that he lost his Contender Series and lost his UFC debut.
Yes.
So I mean, if we're looking at that, he's 0-2 in the UFC or under the UFC banner so far.
Which is unfortunate because he's good.
Yeah, he's not a bad fighter, and especially if you look at some of the guys that he beat. Mm-hmm. He beat Corey Sandhagen outside the UFC. I think that was. I think it was.
2017 when he did that.
I think it was a World Series. Or no, I think that was the PFL fight.
It might have been PFL.
Might have been PFL. But he also beat Chris. Or no, God damn it! Stop. Pause. Where is it at? Who's? Oh, I'm on Timmers. That's why it threw me off. I need to go to Emmer. Okay, here we go. Corey Sandhagen's was LFA.
Oh.
Okay.
Was it a title fight or something?
Boom. Yeah, so he's also beat a couple really good fighters outside the UFC. He beat Corey Sandhagen and LFA early in their career.
Yep.
And Corey Sandhagen's in the UFC right now.
Yeah, that was back in 2017.
Yeah, not very long ago either.
No.
So you also look. He also has a win over Alex Hernandez, another guy who's in the UFC now, both making some names for themselves. Yeah. So he's fought. He didn't fight cans coming up through the ranks.
No.
He's fought tough dudes, and he's doing it.
Well, and he's done a good job with it. Like you said, I think you touched on his wrestling.
Yeah, he had a little bit. He has some good wrestling.
He's a state champion wrestler, actually.
There you
was
go.
A state champion. He wrestled for a little bit at Waldorf College as well. So when you talk about that wrestling, it's there. He's also a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But the funny thing is, he has 7 knockouts as well.
Yeah, he's got some good hands.
7 knockouts, 7 decisions, and he has 3 submissions as well. So for being a wrestler, his hands are good.
Yeah, he's developed them.
And it's fun to watch him go out there and strike and to see what he does because he's explosive, he's fast, he's got good striking, mixes combos well together. The problem that he's going to run into is that he's running into Timur Valiev. Like we said, he's the Russian. With Timur coming in right now, he's coming in right now with 9 decision wins, 5 knockout wins. He's got 2 submission wins. He's the International Pancration Federation World Champion. He's the Russian Kudo Federation Dagestan Champion. He's also the Russian Hand-to-Hand Combat Dagestan Champion. So he's been around a little bit, and he's another one of those guys coming from that land of those Dagestani monsters.
Yeah.
I think he's got great explosive striking. He's got a really fast leg kick that he rips out super fast, and he's looking to tear legs off with it. But he's also really good with his wrestling.
He is. It's crazy you say that because, we keep talking about these Dagestani guys every single week, it seems like, and they're pumping out new fighters into the UFC every week.
The place, yeah.
Every week we're seeing new fighters come out of Dagestan. And
from such a small little area.
And they're just I don't know what it is, what's in the water over there, man. They're dominating.
Yeah.
But, he did suffer a loss in his career to a guy that's actually fighting right before this, Chris Gutierrez.
Yep.
But he did avenge that loss.
Yes.
So, the first loss was a split decision. I think, could have went either way. The second loss, he won the unanimous decision on that one. You already touched on the fact that he's, the Sambo pancreation master. The dude's just super experienced everywhere, super well-rounded.
Yes.
But, and you put it on there, he's also a BJJ brown belt under Ricardo Almeida.
Yeah.
So, we always talk about there's levels to this.
There's levels.
Not all brown belts are equal.
Yep.
And Almeida is a beast.
Yeah, Ricardo Almeida is a beast, and he's a well-respected jiu-jitsu practitioner. So to get your brown belt from him, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so I think he's going to be comfortable anywhere it goes.
Yeah.
I think he's going to eventually actually win this fight. And I've got him winning a decision fight as well. You got a decision too?
So we're 2-0, same exact picks right now. I have Tamar Valiev winning by a decision. Yeah. I just honestly think he's going to be a little bit too much. The wrestling positioning was the thing that changed it for me overall. When I was watching him wrestle, or when I was watching him fight, he focuses very much on the positioning with the wrestling transitions. So if you're going to tie up with him, it's going to turn into a wrestling match where you're going to see a lot of technical wrestling, but you're also going to see him mix explosive strikes inside. Yeah. Good luck trying to take him down and hold him down and control him. We saw what happened the other day. If you can't take somebody down and control them, if they start fighting hands and start working up right away, they're going to get up and get out. If Jamal is capable of wrestling at the level that Timur is, which he has the possibility considering his own wrestling background,
right?
It's going to be an interesting fight that's going to turn to a striking fight. And if it's a striking fight,
Timur has the edge.
Timur, I think, once again, just has the edge.
Yep.
So
I agree.
I'm giving it decision overall. Yeah. That's 2 in a row where we have the exact same pick right now.
I have a feeling it's going to be a little different as we get on.
Well, we'll find out here. So now we're going to move on to Eric Spiceley versus Marcus Perez at 185 pounds. Eric Spiceley, he's an American. He's 12-5. He's 6 feet 2 inches tall. He's 33 years old, and he's 2-5 in the UFC, not including his time on the Ultimate Fighter House, where he ultimately went 2-1, I believe it was. Then he's going against Marcus Perez. Marcus Perez is a Brazilian. He's 12-3. He's 30 years old. He's 6 feet 1 inches tall. He's 2-3 inside of the UFC, not including his submission loss to get into the Tough Brazil house. He has 2 submission wins in the UFC over Anthony Hernandez and James Boknovic. So he's pretty experienced. Tell me what you think about these guys.
It's like I was trying to get there, before about interesting fights. We always talk about that. I think this one's going to be a well matched up fight.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at 2 guys who are pretty experienced on the ground. One of them has a BJJ brown belt in Perez.
Yes.
And Spiceley is a BJJ black belt.
Yep.
So the ground game is going to be close because like we just said it in the last fight, there's levels. Is that brown belt equal to the black belt, or is the black belt actually a black belt?
Yeah.
And
it depends on who it came from. It depends on a lot of things.
Lineage matters in BJJ a little bit, I think.
And so we'd have to look into that a little bit more to see what happens there. But also, there's just some guys who are really good that just haven't put the years into it enough to get that black belt. But like we talked about the fact that he has the 2 submission wins. Talking about Marcus Perez,
both of his UFC
wins are by submissions. So he's comfortable on the ground. He's also a black brigade in Muay Thai.
Yep.
So that's similar to a black belt. I might have pronounced that wrong, but whatever. It's similar to a black belt.
Think black belt in Muay Thai.
Black belt in Muay Thai. He's the former LFA middleweight champion. He's the former Thunder Fight middleweight champion. So he's got some belts under his name. But when he's fighting Eric Spiceley, including his time on The Ultimate Fighter, he's got 7 submissions. He has 4 knockouts and he has 3 decisions. He also has a notable submission win over Thiago Santos back in 2017. So he's pretty good. He's not the worst. His record might not reflect it, but he's got some good wins on there and he's got some good skills.
Yeah.
So what else do you think about these guys?
I think we talk about that this is his second stint, Spiceley's second stint in the UFC?
You're right. This is his second stint. In his first stint, he went 2-4, and he was cut from the UFC.
After 3 straight losses.
After 3 straight losses. He went out and he fought at another promotion.
It was CES MMA.
And he knocked 2 guys out in the first round.
Yep.
He got that opportunity. He got brought back into the UFC. And then in the UFC, he fought, who was it that he fought in his next one? It was Wellington. Was it? Oh, no, that's Marcus.
That was Marcus. Marcus's last fight was Wellington. But Spiceley, his last fight was to Darren Wynn.
Yeah.
That was a fight of the night right there.
Yeah.
They won fight of the night for that fight. It was fun, back and forth. Wynn looked like the better grappler, though. It was really weird.
Well, Darren Wynn is the better grappler. He's a national champion grappler.
Yeah.
But the weird thing to me was the height difference there.
Wynn's short.
Wynn is short, but he was able to land some good, effective striking in there.
Oh, yeah. He looked better on the feet, too.
You know, from the get-go, from the first round. But it was still a super exciting fight. Ultimately, though, Spiceley was just a little bit behind. He was a little bit slower.
He was slower.
And he was a little bit more loopy with his punches. And I think that's going to end up being the difference in this fight here. Marcus Perez, he's good with his Muay Thai, but if you look at it, it's a lot more blitzing. He kind of rushes forward at you a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's not that traditional stand-up, stand-tall style, and he just kind of lets it go, you know. And it's fun to watch. I don't know if it's technical enough to knock out Spiceley or not. But what I do think is going to happen, I think Marcus Perez is going to end up outworking him, and he's going to take home a decision.
So you got 3 straight decisions to start the night?
I got 3 straight decisions. I just don't see anybody getting finished in these ones.
See, I think Spiceley's getting knocked out.
Ooh,
I think he's getting knocked out in the second round.
We'll see what happens there. So, I mean, that's interesting. We still have the same fighter, but once again, you know, we're starting to change things up a little bit. Well, the bonus points are going to be the problem here.
That's the first separation for bonus right there.
Yeah, we're going to see what happens here. Let's get on to the next one here. So now we move on to the next fight. This one's at 135 pounds. This one is Ray, the Taz Mexican Devil versus Mayhem Joseph Nathan Menes. Ray Borg, he's American. He's 13-5. He's 26 years old. He's 5 feet 4 inches tall, and he's 7-5 inside the UFC, including his most recent split decision loss to Ricky Simone, local guy. Made his UFC debut back in 2014, and he's fighting a newcomer right now in Joseph Nathan Menes. So Joseph is an American. He's 11-1. He's 29 years old. And he's 5 feet 10 inches tall. And like we said, he's making his UFC debut, but he's no one to take lightly. Tell me what you think about these guys.
Well, for me, it starts with Ray Borg. Ray Borg is super experienced inside the UFC.
Yeah.
I mean, even at 125 down there, he got a title fight against Demetrius Johnson.
Yep.
Lost via one of the most epic flying armbars you'll ever watch.
Yeah, it was wicked. It was wicked.
But it was. I mean, he's been to the title. He's been there. Yeah. That level. And he's a good wrestler. He's good hands. Like, he's pretty good just about everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's not a tough out to beat Ray Borg.
Yeah. So Ray Borg. Let's talk about his record a little bit. Like, he can win anywhere. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think he has necessarily the most knockout power, but he's able to outstrike a lot of guys.
Mm-hmm.
And he's able to prevent people from taking him down, and he's also able to take people down and grind them out.
Yeah.
He's got good submission skills. He's got 6 overall submissions, but he has 6 decisions. That's because he doesn't have that knockout power. But he's going to hit you, and he's going to hit you a lot.
Yep.
You know, so might not knock you out, but you're going to get beat up, and you're going to feel it the next few days. And he's also the former SCS champion at 125 pounds. So, you know, like we talked about with that experience, 12 fights overall in the UFC. He's been here for 6 years. He's been fighting the toughest dudes around. Whereas Joseph Nathan Menes, he's making his UFC debut. While he does have a lot of experience, I'm not sure that it's enough. Tell me a little bit more about Joseph Menes.
The problem with Menes is there's not a whole lot of footage on him.
Yeah.
Whether you can look him up by his first name Joseph, or you can look up by Nathan, because they have him listed under Nathan on the card and stuff.
Yep.
I just could not find a lot on him in terms of footage. But what I did see is he's a super explosive striker.
Yeah.
He is explosive and carries power in his hands.
Very fast.
And I think that can be said. He's got 4 knockout wins.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of the guys he fought may not have been the best. He fought some guys he probably shouldn't have at this stage in his career. But, I mean, he's got the wins. and he looked good in the slight amounts of film that I did see.
Yeah,
I haven't seen anything on the ground, though.
He's obviously pretty good. He's got a lot of championships to his name for a bunch of smaller regional shows. He's the Bluegrass Brawls Bantamweight champion. He's the Warrior FC Lightweight champion. He's the TKO Bantamweight champion. He's the HR MMA Featherweight champion. He's got good hands, you know. And the other thing about him that I did notice, though, is when he moves backwards, he's got the ability to knock people out.
Yeah, like I say, he carries that power.
You got to be careful rushing in against Mr. Maness here because he's going to back up and look to counter you. And he'll wait for you to pressure. Yeah. And this is where Ray Borg has to be smart at because Maness is going to be looking for those things. Yeah. And we all know it.
And with Nathan, he does have one name on his record that you might recognize.
Which one is that?
Taylor Lapilus.
Taylor Lapilus.
Yep. He spent a little bit of time in the UFC. Actually, he fought Eric Perez.
Okay.
He's actually looks like, what did he go? He was 3-1 in the UFC. It's going to be interesting because I can't say enough. Like, I think Ray Borg will probably end up getting this down to the ground just because there's not a whole lot on Nathan that we can see about his ground game.
Yeah. I mean, right now, what I'm predicting is I'm predicting a Ray Borg decision. Mm-hmm. I think Ray Borg is too experienced. He's obviously fought the better fighters. Like you said, the one fighter that Maness did lose to is a former guy from the UFC. So there could have been a lot of reasons why he's no longer in the UFC, but the bottom line is when it comes to facing UFC caliber fighters, the one time he had that opportunity, he dropped the ball.
Yep.
So for me, you know, I have to give the experience factor to Ray Borg, and I have to take that into consideration. That's where I get my decision from.
Yeah, I agree. The experience definitely goes with Borg, but I think the experience is going to be enough. The fact that he can get it in there, I'm going to say he gets the fight down because I don't think he wants to stand and risk getting shot and getting knocked out.
It's possible.
I mean, Nathan looked like he had some power in those hands.
Oh, yeah.
So I think he's going to try to get this down. We saw him get Ricky down. We saw, go back and forth. And Ricky's not an easy guy to take down.
No.
So I think he gets it down, and ultimately I think he gets a round 1 submission.
You're going round 1 submission.
Round 1 submission, baby.
All right, so you don't have any faith in the fact that he's only got one loss there.
I just don't know.
All right.
We don't see it because he only has one loss, but his one loss is to UFC competition.
Yeah, but that's also by a
knockout.
Right?
Kick to the body.
So, yeah.
So, I mean, it's not enough to really say, okay, is he good on the ground? Because we haven't seen him. All his other fights, if you look at him.
It's very hard to find video on him right now. I'm sure that some other people have found some better video, but.
Probably. He does have a couple submission wins, but, I mean, did they come after knocking the guy down, dropping him, and then jumping on him and grab that submission? Or was he able to actually secure a takedown? Because in the footage that I watched, I couldn't see it. There was nothing. There's no takedowns. I couldn't really find any other footage besides, I think, the 1 or 2 videos that I did find.
Yeah.
So, for me, right now, I think with experience and the fact that he just isn't probably going to want to stand, I think Ray Borg's going to get it to the ground. A decision's probably most likely, but I think I'm going to give Borg that finish. I think he needs it.
All right. I'm cool with that. We'll see what happens there. So, we've only got one fight so far where we picked differently. Yeah?
No, we've picked all four the same.
So, all 4 of them the same.
Or all 3 the same. Is it 4? 4, yeah. 4 the same.
So all 4 of them we picked the same.
We just
2 of them we have the exact same. And then 2 of them we have differences as far as how we think it's going to finish.
You've got 4 straight decisions. I don't know, man.
Well, they look like a lot of decision fights to me. But then we move on to 205 right now with Ed Short Fuse Herman versus Gerald the Machine Meerschaert at 205 pounds. Ed Herman, he's the American, 24-14. 39 years old, in his prime, just like Dan Henderson himself said. He did his best at 39. That's what we're seeing from Ed Herman right now. He's 6 feet 1 inches tall. He's a finalist on Tough Season 3 in 2006, and he's been with the UFC ever since then. So he's one of the OGs of the sport, still competing out here and doing well. But he's going against Gerald Meerschaert, who's coming in and bouncing up from 185 to 205, making his debut.
On short notice.
He's 31-13 overall as a fighter. He's 32 years old. He's 6 feet 1 inches tall, so they're the exact same height. And he's 6-5 inside the UFC. He's 2-3 inside in his last 5, though. He's coming off of a submission win over Darren Wynn. He beat him by rear naked choke. Tell me what you think about these guys.
You know, obviously we're probably going to have a little bit of bias coming into this one, given Ed Herman's a Portland fighter.
Yep.
You know, we're big fans of Ed Herman here. Ed has not won back-to-back fights since 2011, 2012, where he beat Kyle Noak and Clifford Starks in back-to-back.
You say
Actually,
Ed?
Yeah, Ed.
He's on a 2-fight win streak.
I'm getting there, dipshit. Let me get to it. Well, outside of 2019, where he put together his first win streak
In a long time.
since 2011, 2012.
Yep.
He's had an up and down career. And at one point, he had lost 3 in a row between 2016, 17, and 18.
Yes.
So he came back. He beat Patrick Cummins.
By knockout with knees.
Knockout.
Yep.
Beat Kadis Ibrahimov, who we saw fight last weekend, I think it was.
Who lost.
So, I mean, he's finally got back-to-back wins. He's looked calmer in these fights. Like, he's looked more mature, if that makes sense. Because Short Fuse, that's his nickname. He fought like a short fuse, too, if you ever watched that Herman fight.
Well, he gets hot pretty fast, right?
Yeah.
And it's so funny because as soon as he gets
I think
hot,
it's a redhead thing.
His face is red as a tomato. And it's the same thing in person. Like, he's a good person in person. Just so you guys know, I do know him. He's a wrestling coach locally here. He coaches at Mountain View High School. That's one of the high schools out here. And our kids actually wrestled together on the same team. His son, Ed, wrestled with my daughter. And so we do know each other a little bit. He's a nice person overall. He does a lot to help out with the community. He volunteers with the wrestling team. And at the same time, he's also coaching elite fighters.
Yeah.
You know, guys
Over
in the
there.
UFC.
So BJJ black belt under Fabiano Scherner.
Yeah, and, you know, to talk about some of his other accomplishments, like he's got wins over Rafael Natal. Mm-hmm. He's beaten Tim Boach. He's also beaten Tim Credeur. So since he's been along, like he's beaten all these guys that have come up and gone. All these guys that are supposed to be big names or that they're looking to turn into big names, Ed's been one of the guys knocking them off.
Yeah, and he's still around because he's made a name for himself being a fan fighter. We've talked about that sometimes, a fan fighter. He puts on a good show. It's an entertainment sport.
He definitely does. But, you know, about that stuff there, Meerschaert has got 23 submission wins.
Yep.
23 submission wins. Like, that's a lot of wins.
In MMA. That's not
In
including,
MMA.
like, anything outside of BJJ. 23 MMA submission wins.
You know, like we said, it's his 205 debut. He does have 6 knockouts. He does have 2 decisions. He claims to be like a Taekwondo-style fighter, but he also has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he has a black belt in kickboxing. Mm-hmm. Before he signed with the UFC, he was also the RFA middleweight champion. But when we look at it, what do you think?
Well, he's another guy who's had kind of an up and down UFC career. You know, you look at, he won his first couple fights coming into the UFC, then he lost to Thiago Santos.
Yes.
And since then, he's kind of been win, loss, win, loss. So he's another guy who's going to be looking for that win.
Yeah.
He might need it. I mean, from what I've seen when I watch him fight, I'm not impressed with his stand-up. Given the fact that he claims to be this what is he, a Taekwondo guy?
You know, he's a Taekwondo fighter
black belt,
and
right?
a kickboxing black belt.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a kickboxing black belt, but I just
He started out as a Taekwondo fighter growing up.
Okay,
that's
where I
what
got
moved
that.
him into mixed martial arts.
He just does not look good on the feet.
Yeah,
I'm not impressed.
No.
He's slow, but he's tough. He's really tough.
Yeah, the way I see it is I think that this is going to be fought a lot in the cage. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to see a lot like with the Ed Herman versus Kadis Ibrahimov fight. They're going to be grinding for that position on the cage there. Ed Herman's really good inside of there of landing that dirty boxing stuff, sneaking in some elbows, some uppercuts, some body shots with his hands and up to the head. Mm-hmm. And then he's also good at grabbing that head and starting to look for knees. Obviously, like in that Kadis fight, we saw that he's hard to take down. So the fact that he's going to be hard to take down, I think that it's not really going to be going to the ground much. I think that they're both going to be fighting for position up against the cage. I think round 3, after they tire out a little bit, Ed Herman's going to catch him and send him to the mat. I'd call Ed Herman winning by knockout round 3.
See, for me, I think this fight's going to go really, really similar to 2 of the hell's his name? Meerschaert's earlier fights. Mm-hmm. So if you watch the Kevin Holland fight, Kevin Holland's another good wrestler, and he's actually fighting later on this card.
Yes.
So we can talk about him some more when I get there. But he's another really good fighter that Meerschaert lost to. And I think that one was a split decision. But Holland looked like the better striker in that fight and looked like the better grappler, even though Meerschaert has 23 submission victories.
Yeah.
But he's, it's one of those things. I think it's going to be similar to either the Kevin Holland fight, because Kevin Holland was able to take him down and beat him up on the ground.
Yeah.
And or it's going to be similar to the Eric Anders fight. Eric Anders comes in, and he's more of a striker. Was able to strike and beat him up a little bit on the feet, but like I said, Meerschaert's tough. Anders ended up turning into something what you were talking about, more of a clinch game up against the fence. And Anders was the aggressor in that one, controlling the clinch up against the fence. And I'm looking at Eric Anders. If he's controlling the clinch, Ed Herman's going to control this clinch.
Yep.
But I also think that Ian Heinisch just knocked him out back in June.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Ed Herman's going to knock him out too.
All right. Well,
Ed Herman has some knockout power,
when
baby.
do you think he's going to knock him out? What round?
Round 1. I think he's just going to catch him, and he's going to knock him out.
All right. Well, we both got a knockout there.
It's 185, they're fighting at 205. 205
but Ed Herman also was an 85-pounder.
Right, they both
moved
85ers.
up, and he's had success since he moved up to 205. So this is it's interesting because it's not like any guy should really be the bigger guy here because they're both former 185-pounders.
Right.
This is interesting, though. So that's fun. That's awesome right there. So then we move on to the last fight on the undercard. This one's Frankie Sainz versus Jonathan Martinez at 135 pounds. Frankie, he's an American. He's 12-6. 39 years old. He's 5 feet 6 inches tall. Made his UFC debut back in 2014, and he's 5-4 inside of the UFC, coming off of a KO loss to Marlon Vera.
Yeah.
He's fighting Jonathan Martinez, who's an American, 11-3 in MMA, 26 years old, 5 feet 8 inches tall, 2-2 in the UFC, coming off of a split decision loss to Andre Ewell, who's a tough fighter.
So, I think you've got it noted in your stuff there that Sainz is a NCAA D1 wrestler.
Yeah. So he wrestled at Arizona State and University of Northern Colorado.
He also has a BJJ blue belt.
Yep.
From what I could find on him. On the feet, he's a little careless.
Yes.
He wings his shots out there. So if you watch his most recent fight versus Marlon Vera,
who's tough.
He kind of just throws big, looping, winging punches. And he's going to be looking to take it to the ground.
Yes.
When you get to Martinez, though, he throws a lot of kicks and flying knees.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be either his win right there or what gets him in trouble versus Sainz.
Yeah.
Because Sainz has the ability, he catches a lot of kicks really well, and he'll put you on your back. If you're throwing flying knees against him, he's probably going to catch you, put you on your back. Or if you're Martinez, you're waiting for Sainz to shoot that takedown, you just throw that flying knee. So it's a little interesting there. I think Martinez is definitely going to want to avoid the ground with Sainz. I think that's Sainz' key to victory is just getting the takedowns. And, we've seen Martinez on his back before.
Yeah.
He's been taken down in a few of his fights. The Andre Ewell fight, I think Andre actually got him down a little bit in that fight and was able to grind him a little bit there. And, well, he's got some impressive striking, though. His fun. He's got flashy kicks, flashy knees.
Yeah.
But other than that, for me, I think Sainz. I've got Sainz in this one by decision.
All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about these guys before I get into mine. So like you were talking about with Sainz, he's got 7 decision wins.
Yep.
So most of his wins come by decision. He has 3 knockout wins, and he has 2 submission wins. He's the former 135-pound King of the Cage champions. He did that 3 times, successfully fought for the belt 3 times. The former WFC 145-pound champion and the former Coalition of Combat 145-pound champion. So, he's fought some top competition on the regional scenes on smaller shows. Like you said, he's coming off that split. Jonathan Martinez is coming off that split decision loss. But he himself has 6 knockouts. He has 3 decisions, and he has 2 submissions. You talked about the dangerous striking of Jonathan Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
for me, that's going to be the changing factor there. And I've got Jonathan Martinez winning by knockout round 3.
All right, we got our first separate pick.
Separate. There we go.
All right, baby.
Woo!
Let's get it. That's the first separate one. All right.
Yep. All right. All right. So now we move on to the main card. I'm excited about this main card. It's really awesome. The first fight on the main card, this one's Kevin Holland versus Trayvon Giles at 185 pounds. Kevin is an American. He's 17-5. He's 27 years old, 6 feet 3 inches tall, and he's 4-2 in the UFC, including his decision win on Dana White's Contender Series. Right now, he's coming off of a coming off of a TKO win over Anthony Hernandez, which started with the knee to the body. And then he's going against Trayvon Giles, who's the American, 12-2, 27 years old, 6 feet tall, 3-2 in the UFC, and coming off of a split decision win over James Krause in a Fight of the Night performance as well. So tell me what you think about these guys.
Well, this is the Kevin Holland. I talked about him in the last fight, I think it was.
Briefly,
and,
yes.
He's the one with the win over Meerschaert.
Yes.
And it was a good one where he kind of showed that he has the wrestling acumen to hang with a dude who's a BJJ black belt on the ground.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
You can.
He's also a good striker.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm super impressed with Meerschaert's striking because it's just slow and just weird looking. If it works for you, it works for you. But I wasn't impressed with it. But Holland looked to be the much better striker in that fight as well.
Yeah.
So, I get down to it. He looks pretty well-rounded, and from what I found, he's a Kung Fu black belt.
Yes, so he's got a black belt in Kung Fu. He's a second-degree black belt.
Second degree.
He's also a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, he's another one of those guys that's well-rounded. He has 8 knockouts overall on his record. He has 6 submissions on his record, and he has 3 decision wins on his record. So he's well-rounded again. Yeah. And on top of that, he's the former XKO middleweight champion. He's really well-versed. He got that knockout, though, with that knee to Anthony Hernandez. Mm-hmm. That was pretty awesome. But, going against Trayvon right here, Trayvon's, both of his losses have come by guillotine choke to both Meerschaert, who we were just talking about, and Zach Cummins. Mm-hmm. They did come a little bit later in the fight, but he leaves that out there. It's something that he needs to be aware of in this fight. Because like we just said, Kevin Holland can submit him.
He's that brown belt that Holland has, that's a Travis Lutter brown belt.
Yeah.
So it's another one. The names, man. The lineage.
Travis
some brown belts, man, they're not equal. Black belts aren't equal.
Yeah, and the other thing about this, though, you're going to see a little bit of trash talking between the two in this fight. Trayvon never stops talking in his fights. He's known for talking. And
he has fun in there.
Yeah, he does, and it's not bad. But Kevin, Kevin's always making noises, too, and always saying stuff. He's really known for yelling out, woo, in his fights. I was studying one of his fights. He's literally on the bottom being mounted, and he screams out, woo, right in the dude's face.
Yeah, so you hear all the fans, because it's funny, in one of the fights, this didn't even happen in this same fight, but ever since then, all the fans in his fights, they start chanting, woo! And, Joe Rogan was super confused in one of the fights. He's like, why is everybody wooing? He's like, dude, there's 10,000 people all chanting woo at the same time for no reason. Yeah. What the hell?
Yep.
Well, Joe, there you go.
There you go. So, it's pretty funny, but, so you're going to see a little bit, and it makes it entertaining, So I think that this fight right here, this is one of my picks for Fight of the Night right here. It's a super entertaining fight, I think, overall. From the performance of it, I think that they're going to have fun with it. From just watching them get the back and forth between them verbally and watching their body postures towards each other, I'm excited to see it overall. One of my picks for Fight of the Night, but I have Trayvon winning by knockout in round 2.
Wow. See, it's a little surprising to me because, with what I noticed about Trayvon is he is exciting, but he throws pretty wildly when he's on his feet. Dude, he even leaves his chin out when he throws.
Yep.
To me, that's a bad sign.
Well, the fight over James Krause, that's what's giving me that.
Yeah.
That was a fun fight. That performance of the night one right there.
Yeah.
He got the win. He's got a chin that can hang.
We'll see, but I don't think he's getting knocked out. See, what I think is going to happen is you're going to see. I think we should note that Trayvon is a BJJ purple belt, according to his profile.
Yes.
But I do think that Holland is actually better on the feet. I think he's better on the ground. And I think he gets this to the ground because we saw Trayvon on the ground.
Yeah.
He's been submitted before. And I think Holland taps him out in the second round.
Well, we're going to find out what happens here. I got knockout for Trayvon round 2. You've got Holland by submission round 2.
Is that back-to-back fights where we're opposite?
I don't know, but that's a couple there.
Oh, buddy. Yeah,
hey, but you know what? So this next fight, though, this one's a rematch, this next fight.
It is a rematch.
So this one is Groovy Lando Veneta versus Bobby King Green, and this one's at 155 pounds. In that first fight, Groovy Lando came out and picked him apart right away.
Oh, dude, he almost knocked him out.
He dropped him in the first round, and he was working him. And unfortunately, he landed a knee, and the knee didn't even really land.
It wasn't the knee; it was the thigh that hit. But yeah. I mean, he still was down.
He was a downed opponent, and it happens. But
they took a point, so it was a 9-9 round.
Yep, they took that point away and made it a 9-9 round. And the fight ended up going to a draw. So now if they don't take that point away,
he wins.
Lando Veneta wins fight 1.
It's also good to note that fight 1, even though it was back in, I think, 2017, they did not use the new rule set.
Yep.
So if they had used the new rule set, it could have been a 9-8 round.
Potentially.
And he still would have won. Because he knocked down, what's his face, and almost finished him.
Yes.
Green. He almost finished Green. That could have been a 10-8, but the point reduction made it a 10-9.
Yeah.
Or a 9-9.
Yeah.
Or because they didn't use new rules. Now, under the new rules, that would have been a 10-8 round.
That would have been a 2-point deduction.
So.
And that being the 2-point deduction is what would have made it so that Lando
Well, then it would have been an 8-8, and it still would have been a draw.
No, because Lando won that round anyway.
I know, and I'm saying, you're not listening to me.
No.
He knocked him down. It would have been a 10-8 round for Lando had he not done that knee.
Oh, yeah, potentially.
Under the new rule set, because they weren't under the new rule set.
Well, maybe, potentially, because even then after that,
it's highly possible.
Bobby Green, he still did good after that.
No, he did great. That's because the knee wasn't really a knee.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that was enough to say a 10-8 on that. I think that potentially if it had kept going the way that it was going right before that knee, it probably doesn't even make it to the end of the round.
Probably not.
I don't think it makes it to the end of the round. I think that Lando just made one mistake, and that ended up costing him the match that he dominated for, I don't know, I don't want to say dominated.
Didn't really dominate.
He controlled the match for 15 minutes.
I think he landed the better shots throughout the entire fight. If you watch, he threw a lot of really heavy leg kicks that did bother him. Threw a good lot of body shots, a lot of strikes that you could see Green's head get snapped back. The issue, I think, what the judges were looking at was the blood. Because Veneta's face would look like a meat grinder.
Well, he got beat up a little bit there in the second round because he was taking that back position there and slipped off and started getting hit with some heavy hammer or with some heavy ground and pound.
Oh, at the end of the first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what started it. And then throughout the rest of the fight, you saw the blood everywhere.
Yeah, and you see the blood, but Green wasn't really landing too much outside of a couple 1-2s. He was landing just jabs to the same spot and just spreading that blood out. So it looked a lot worse than it actually was.
Yep.
So, I mean, I still had Veneta winning that fight either way.
Yeah.
And I think, we saw Green.
Well, before we get to our picks, though, we still want to talk about the rest of their stuff, too. So.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We saw Green, was it a month ago maybe, when he came back?
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago.
It wasn't very long ago. How long ago was it when we saw Green? We saw Green, last month fight Clay Guida, and he looked really, really good against Guida.
But like you're talking about shot fighters, Clay Guida's one of those guys.
Right. Clay Guida wasn't something that's like super impressive, but it's one of those guys. It's another name. Guida was trying to take him down.
The problem for me, though, is outside of that one, though. He lost to Francisco Trinaldo right before that. He's really only 4-1-1 outside of that Clay Guida fight. And that Clay Guida fight, it's not as impressive. It's still a win. It's still a name. It's still a notable fight there, but it's just not as impressive as if you would have beat Clay Guida 5 years ago.
Exactly.
So, to me, not a super great win for him. It's good that it puts him back in the win column. But I don't know. I'm not super impressed by that one.
Yeah, I wasn't super impressed, but he did look good. His striking looked good. Yeah. His striking always looks good. He's got good boxing. He's a boxer.
He did look good, and I actually picked Clay Guida to win that match.
So, I think that's one where we split on because I had Green in that one.
So, yeah. Now, so let's talk a little bit about these guys overall, though. Lando Veneta, he's 11-4 overall in MMA. He's 28 years old. He's 5 feet 9 inches tall. He's 3-4-2 inside of the UFC. He has 2 draws, which is very weird. Oftentimes it's hard for people to even get 1 draw, let alone 2 draws.
Right.
One of them was that split decision draw against Bobby Green because of the point. But he's also coming off of a decision win right now over Yancy Medeiros. Lando has 3 performance of the night bonuses, so you're gonna look for something that's exciting. I really like watching his ground game. He started out as a wrestler. He was a D1 wrestler for a semester at the University of Tennessee before he dropped out to be a fighter himself. He's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I'm pretty excited about all those accomplishments. Former top shelf 155-pound champion. So he's got 5 submission wins. He has 4 knockouts, and he has 2 decisions to his record. With Bobby Green, Bobby Green, he wrestled as well. He's a 2-time high school state placer. He trains in boxing. He's a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from what I found. He might be a purple belt now or not, but what I found, he was a blue belt. He's a former King of the Cage 155-pound and 170-pound champion. The former TFA 155-pound champion and the former WFC 155-pound champion. He has 9 submissions overall to his record. He has 8 knockouts and 8 decisions. So he can fight everywhere. What do you think? How do you think this fight's going to go?
Yeah, so for me, I think this fight's probably going to go exactly how the first one went. But I don't think we're going to see Vannata making a mistake again in terms of getting that point reduction for an illegal knee.
Yep.
And I've got Vannata winning this one by decision.
Yes, same thing for me.
And a potential fight of the night alert.
Potential fight of the night. I got that marked as a potential fight of the night. The last one was super fun. This one I think is going to be super fun. I just don't see how Bobby Green's going to get caught up enough to what Lando was doing to him last time.
Well, in the 3rd round, we did see Green almost knock out Vannata. Vannata was saved by the bell. If there was a 4th round, if we were going championship rounds, I think Green ends up taking that one by knockout going in that 4th round.
But you also have to think about the energy that he expended early on in the 1st round trying to finish him.
Yeah.
So that could have played into effect going into that. But yeah, so we both got Lando by decision. That's another one where we picked the same. This is crazy.
All right.
So then we move on to the next fight on the main card. This one is Vicente Luque versus Randy Brown at 170 pounds. Vicente Luque, he's Brazilian. He's 18-7-1 overall. He's 28 years old, 5 feet 11 inches tall, and he's 12-4 in the UFC, including his time on Tough. He's coming off of a win over Nico Price by doctor stoppage due to an eye injury. At this point, though, he has beaten Nico twice inside of the UFC. He is fighting Randy Brown. Randy Brown is a Jamaican. He's 12-3. He's 30 years old, 6 feet 3 inches tall, 6-3 in the UFC, and he's on a 2-fight win streak, coming off of a unanimous decision win over Warley Alves.
Yeah.
What do you think about these guys?
Vicente Luque has been in the UFC since 2015. And he went on quite a tear. I mean, his only 2 losses in the UFC are to Leon Edwards and Stephen Thompson.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty good. And that's, I guess we should note that he did lose on the Ultimate Fighter finale. So I think that technically counts as a UFC loss.
Yeah, that's a UFC loss.
So he does have 3 losses in the UFC. But that was his debut, the Ultimate Fighter finale against Michael Graves. Lost that fight. Since then, he's beaten Bilal Muhammad, Nico Price twice, Brian Barberina, Chad Laprise,
and
Mike Perry, the guy
by split decision,
who I was not impressed with. I just don't like him as a person.
Well, I mean, you're impressed with his fighting. You're not impressed.
I was
with him
impressed
as a person.
with yeah.
Yes. So he's got a lot of notable wins. He's 8-2 in his last 10 fights.
Yeah.
He's been on a tear. He's got 10 knockouts. He has 7 submissions, and he has 2 decisions. So he's a finisher. You're looking for him to finish. He's got a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. Randy Brown, though, he's tough too. Like we said, he's on a 2-fight win streak right now. He lost to Bilal Muhammad, though.
Yep. He also lost to Nico Price.
He lost to Bilal Muhammad by decision, whereas Vicente finished him.
Yep.
So you look at that, it's hard to say. He knocked out Bilal Muhammad in round 1. Vicente knocked him out in round 1. Whereas Randy Brown lost by decision. So sometimes those knockouts in round 1 they don't really necessarily mean as much.
Nico Price knocked him out in round 2.
Nico Price knocked him out, who was beaten twice.
And they both share a loss to Michael Graves.
And they both share a loss to Michael Graves. So right there, that's the problem that I have with it. But Randy Brown, he has 6 knockouts on his record. He has 4 submissions. He has 2 decisions. He started boxing back in 2005, so he's got good hands. He's a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so he's really trying to make things diverse. And as you can tell by his record, he has some submissions and knockouts. So he's another guy who's going to look to be a threat anywhere the fight is at. He's also the former Ring of Combat 170-pound champion a long time ago. I just don't think it's going to be enough.
Yeah, it's going to be something that I think is, like I said, I think this is another potential fight of the night.
It's going to be a fun one.
I think it was Vicente Luque has 3 fight of the night bonuses already in his UFC career. So it's pretty crazy.
It's very possible.
Yeah, pull up his wiki real quick. I'm pretty sure he has 3. I think he has 5 bonuses overall, 3 fight of the nights, and 2 performance bonuses. It could be, if it's not him, it's Brown, one of those 2, but I'm pretty sure it's Luque. When it comes to Brown, he has really, really quick hands. And like you said, he's been boxing for a while now.
2005.
You're looking 15 years he's been boxing. He's got some good hands, man. He'll throw occasional kicks. He kind of just like pokes him out there more to keep distance range.
So he's got 2 bonuses. He's got a performance of the night bonus and a fight of the night bonus. Actually, he's got 2 performance of the nights, and he's got 3 fight of the night bonuses.
Yeah, so I was
That's
right.
5 awards overall. So you're gonna see an exciting fight.
So yeah, that's the point.
What we kind of
he has 3 fight of the nights already. Mm-hmm. This is another one that could potentially be fight of the night.
Yep.
But either way, as we were talking about Brown, he's got his boxing, been boxing 15 years, really quick hands.
Yep.
He kind of pokes kicks out every once in a while, but he doesn't throw a lot of kicks.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't really seen him on the ground, but he is strong in the clinch. That could, come from his boxing days as well, where, you do a little bit of clinch work there. But ultimately, I think both fighters are probably solid on the ground.
I think they're close enough to shut each other down.
They're close enough to keep it down, or to keep it from going down. Or if it does go down, it'll just be kind of a stalemate. But I've got Luque, man, destroying his legs.
Yeah.
Because Brown leaves
it out there.
His left lead leg, he sticks it out there. Almost like a karate stance, which is weird for a boxer.
Yeah.
But that's something I noticed, that he sticks that leg out there, and Luque will take your leg if you give it to him.
Yep.
So I think Luque is just going to destroy that leg in the first round and a half, and towards the later part of the second round, you're going to see a Luque knockout win.
Ooh, so you got a round 2 knockout. So with Luque here, I agree with you that it's going to be a knockout. And I think that sometimes when you put boxers against Thai-style fighters, those guys with that Muay Thai experience, like Luque has, they're going to have the advantage as the Muay Thai guy because you have more tools. Not only do you have your fist, but you're also really trained with your elbows, with your knees, and with your feet. So you have the ability to control the range a little bit, stay out of that boxing range, and still be able to land those kicks. I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think you are going to see a lot of leg kicks, but I don't see the knockout coming until round 3.
Okay.
So we got a knockout round 3 right there. So then we move on to the main event. This is not the real main event, but this is my main event. So this is the main event for Jake Thomas right here. We have Mrs. Dr. Neville, Joanne Calderwood, Bad Mofo Jojo, number 3 ranked in the world right now, going against Jennifer Maia, who's ranked number 6 at 125 pounds. So Joanne Calderwood, she's from Scotland. She's 14-4. She's 34 years old right now. She's 5 feet 6 inches tall, 19-2 in kickboxing, Muay Thai, and she's 6-4 in the UFC, not including her time on Tough, where she went 1-1. She's coming off of a split decision win over Andrea Lee, but she's going against Jennifer Maia, who is a very tough competitor, who's an American, 17-6-1 overall, 31 years old, 5 feet 4 inches tall, 2-2 in the UFC, but coming off of a loss to Caitlin Chikugian by decision. She does have notable wins over Roxanne Modafferi and Alexis Davis. Tell me what you think about these girls.
I think this is going to be an extremely close match.
It's going to be a fun one.
I think it's going to be close. what you're going to see is Jennifer Maia is a boxer.
Mm-hmm.
She has wicked fast hands. They go quick, and she's not afraid to get in there and close to throw them. Her problem is that she's running into Joanne Calderwood, who is a wicked striker herself.
Yes.
She doesn't quite throw it with the speed that Maia's going to be throwing at, but I think she's a little bit more accurate and throws with power.
I don't know about that. Do you remember that Fight Science thing I was talking to you about?
You told me about her spinning elbow stuff, but let's see a Fight Science
now, that's a reaction time thing. So the
Right.
way that they time that is the reaction, right? They want to see how fast you throw it. Now, when does she throw that spinning elbow? When the fighters step in to throw. So as they step in to throw, 0.03 seconds to rotate around. Faster than it takes a cobra to snap their jaws in for a bite.
Okay.
So 0.03 seconds on just
But how
that
fast
spinning
are her
one.
hands?
Now, the other thing that she does well, that's going to make it hard for Miss Maia here is when fighters throw that straight right, like Maia likes to throw, they do this thing where they lean themselves in. And Dr. Neville, the reason they call her Dr. Neville is because of her knees. She has this fantastically timed knee where when fighters reach in to land that strike, she leans back and explodes that knee into the fighters. Now, during the Fight Science show, they talked about how she actually generates more power when she's not tied up in the clinch and when she throws that knee like that. So if Maia is looking to catch her with that one right there, or with that two, which is what it is, it's a straight right, then she's looking to set herself up to get caught with that knee.
She could get caught with that knee, but like I'm saying, I think Maia has the faster hands.
I don't know. I think the timing
her speed and those hands are quick.
The timing.
And she moves quick. She gets
the
in and out.
timing is good. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. But then again, you also have to consider the fact that Joanne Calderwood has competed in kickboxing at the highest level. She was the ISKA World Flyweight Champion in Muay Thai. She was the IKF European Flyweight Champion in Muay Thai. She was the WKL European Flyweight Champion in Muay Thai. The WBC UK Bantamweight Champion in Muay Thai. She has 8 decision wins overall right now. She has 5 knockout wins and 1 submission win. She's also mixed it up. She's learning more on the ground right now, which is awesome. Nobody was expecting her to pull out a submission win inside the UFC, and she did just a couple fights ago.
Yeah. Anyway, take 3. I think Maia has the faster hands, but she's going to have to eat a lot of shots to get in there.
We're going to find out.
If you let me finish my fucking point instead of jumping all over your girl's bones,
we'll find out.
I might get a chance to get a thought in on this fight.
We'll find
out. Probably not, because I'm not going to get a chance for this one, because he's going to cut me off every time, anytime something comes out with JoJo.
Yep.
Anyway, they both share a loss to Caitlin Chikugian.
Yes, they do.
Who decisioned both of them.
Yep.
That's kind of a fight that I'm looking at when I'm looking to see, okay, stylistically, how are we doing?
Yep.
Chikugian had like 6 inches, I think, on Maia. Maia's only like 5'4", and I think Chikugian's like maybe 5 inches. I think she's like 5'9", something like that.
I can find out, though.
She's tall. I'll pull that up
Just
right
keep
there.
talking. I'll pull it
Anyway, yeah, she's 5'9", and Chikugian was really able to use her range and her kickboxing to keep Maia at distance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Maia was able to get in there and land some shots, but this is going to be a similar situation where she's going to have to eat some kicks and punches to get in there. She's going to be the shorter fighter, I think, by 2 inches, 2 or 3 inches.
5'9".
Coming into this one. And then, she showed some acumen on the ground there a little bit.
She does have some knowledge on the ground.
So, I don't know that this is going to actually go to the ground, but I think, didn't Calderwood recently become a BJJ blue belt now? Did she finally get up there?
I don't know.
She's been working on her ground game.
I know she's been working on her jiu-jitsu. She's been working on her overall game everywhere. Her wrestling defense, which is actually already pretty good before she got to the UFC, has gotten significantly better since she's been in the UFC. She's done a lot to work on keeping it to the feet, but if it goes to the ground, she's comfortable there. And you've also seen more recently in some of JoJo's fights, she mixes in a little bit threats of a takedown. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens on that ground aspect there.
Ultimately, I think this fight it's probably one of the harder fights to pick on the entire card.
For me, it's easy.
No, you're going to pick JoJo. It doesn't matter who she's fighting. So
she's going to be a champion.
Your bias is out of here.
Nope.
For me, this is actually a lot closer than Jake's making it sound. I think this fight goes to a decision no matter what. but I'm going to rock with Maia to win by decision.
Oh, you just did it just for the views. Here's what's going to happen. Joanne Calderwood is going to be too much for her overall in every aspect of the game. Joanne Calderwood's going to tie up with her if the threat of her getting punched is there. She's going to get a good plum grip on her. She's going to work some good knees. She's going to work her elbows on the inside. If they're at range, Joanne Calderwood is going to use her feet to keep her at a distance to where Maia can't land a single strike. And you're going to see ultimately overall, it is going to go until the second round because Maia is tough. And Maia might land a little bit here and might actually pressure her against the cage a little bit. But Joanne Calderwood's too good everywhere and is going to end up knocking her out in the second round.
That's crazy. She has 8 straight decision fights, whether she's won or lost.
She's going to knock them out.
8 straight decisions.
She's going to knock her out. You're going to see it happen. Dr. Neville's going to knock her out. Now we're moving on to the main event. Derek Brunson versus Edmund the Golden Boy Shahbazyan at 185 pounds. This one, I'm like super excited about this one because you have 2 really good fighters in this one. Derek Brunson, he's an American. He's 20-7 overall. He's 36 years old, so he's a little bit older. He's 6 feet 1 inches tall, and he's 11-5 in the UFC. Mm-hmm. So he's been around for a long time. He's got a lot of good, significant wins. We'll jump into those in a little bit. But who he's going against is Edmund Shahbazyan, who's 5-0 in the UFC right now. He's American. He's 11-0 as a fighter total. He's 22 years old, so he's super young, which is why I note the difference between the 36 and the 22 here. He's 6 feet 2 inches tall, so he's kind of tall. Mm-hmm. And he's finished every single one of his fights in the UFC in the first round.
Except for the Darren Stewart fight.
Except for the Darren... Oh, that's the one that he won by decision.
That was the Ultimate Fighter finale, split decision win.
Yeah, outside of that one, that was a split decision win for him. Mm-hmm. What do you think about these guys?
I think I'm just as excited as you, but not really for Derek Brunson. I mean, so Derek Brunson, he is a D2 wrestler. I think everybody knows what he's...
University of North Carolina.
Yeah, I think everybody knows what his game plan is going to be coming in.
Yep.
You know, he's also a BJJ brown belt under Renzo Gracie. Mm-hmm. So he's comfortable on the ground. He wants this fight on the ground. When you look at Shahbazyan, he looks phenomenal. He looks like the future of 185, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking 22 years old, and if you watch his what has he got? 5 UFC
fights? 5 fights in the UFC. 5-0.
If you watch all of them, he has insanely high fight IQ for a 22-year-old.
So he's finished 10 of his 11 fights, and the one that he didn't finish was that split decision win. But the 10 that he finished were all in the first round.
Yeah,
all of them in the first round.
All first round finishes. Brad Tavares knocked him out with a nasty head kick after dropping him early in the round.
And that's the crazy thing, because we see a lot of these guys, and it's like, okay, you're looking at the record, and you're like, okay, he's knocking all these guys out or submitting all these guys in the first round.
Yeah.
You know, are they all cans? You know, what are they doing? But then you come into the UFC, you're on a 5-fight win streak, 4 of them in the first round.
Yeah.
And those guys, Brad Tavares, that is not a slouch. That was supposed to be a big test for him, and he cut through him like a knife through butter, man.
Well, even the Jack Marshman fight, man. Jack Marshman came in there. He had just beat John Phillips, and then he comes in there and gets beat by Shahbazyan. Gets tapped out.
Yeah.
And my question was, okay, we haven't seen a lot of Shahbazyan on the ground.
Yeah.
And then we watched that fight, and we're like, okay, this kid looks
you don't want to see him on the ground because he's going to tear some people up.
He's relentless. He's just a beast, dude, and I'm really excited to watch Shahbazyan. I'm excited for his future, and I really, really, really think that Derek Brunson's in trouble in this one. What do you think?
Yeah, well, you know, ultimately here, though, we also have to remember like how experienced Derek Brunson is.
He is experienced.
And he has some like great wins. So like you said, we know what he's going to do. He's going to try to take him down. But you have to think about this. He knocked out Daniel Kelly. He knocked out Lyoto Machida.
Yep.
He knocked out Uriah Hall.
There was those.
So while he does have the ground game stuff, most of his wins don't come by submission on the ground. They come by knockout. He has 10 wins by knockout, and he has 6 decision wins. So he has just as many knockout wins as he does decision and submission wins combined. All right? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. The problem I think that is going to happen is because he's so comfortable and he has so much faith in the power in his hands, and he does have some decent striking, I think he's going to try to stand. And as we've seen so far, that's proven to be a mistake.
He has 5 knockout losses.
Exactly. I think that Edmund Shahbazyan's going to knock him out in round 1.
You know what? I agree. Shahbazyan, knockout, round 1.